Hello and welcome to the InterBase product address at CodeRage 9. We are going to be looking today at how InterBase can really help you embed, deploy and relax when it comes to your data, and looking at the key features and capabilities that are around the product, and also some of the new stuff that we're working on for the future. And we've got some exceptionally exciting stuff that we're looking to bring through to the InterBase servers, and we want to share that with you today, and also invite you to join the beta program if you're not with us already on that. My name is Stephen Ball. I am the Associate Product Manager for InterBase, and you can contact me through stephen.ball@embarcadero.com, or through my Twitter, which is delphiaball, or through my blog delphiaball.co.uk. So today we're going to look at InterBase today. We're going to have a quick look through the roadmap and also have an exclusive preview of Project Delta Force, or specifically Change Views, which is a new technology that we're introducing into the InterBase core engine, and we're super excited about it and want to be able to help you kind of see what we're doing, and invite you to join us as we work our way through bringing this to market. So InterBase really is about providing a database engine to you that you can embed, deploy and relax. And we call InterBase an embedded database because we provide two versions. One is the library version, which you can embed into your applications statically, or as a zero install. And then there's the full embedded engine that provides an installer that you can embed within your installers and provides scalable, powerful database engine from one to multiple users. And because of this, it's highly prized by ISVs and software vendors who provide their databases as part of their product. And InterBase's story works across multiple platforms, including iOS and Android today on XE3, and provides a very secure database engine, which is exceptionally important in today's modern age. InterBase provides a database engine on multiple devices and multiple platforms, and we look today to provide out to Windows, to Mac, to iOS, to Android and to Linux. We still have support for Solaris on some of our older editions of InterBase around as well. So the core engine of InterBase provides a very highly scalable embeddable database engine. And so we call it embeddable because you can literally embed it with your application. If it's a 1 user, 100 user application, you can embed it in and send it out. Because of InterBase's very small footprint and in-memory usage, it's ideal for ISVs and OEM partners to ensure that their software provided out has something that's cost appropriate and also device appropriate for small to very large server systems. InterBase is exceptionally easy to deploy. Through the installation, you can just go next, next, next and finish. And because of its ACID compliance and multi-generational architecture, InterBase provides a very near zero administration product, and this helps save a huge amount of money in terms of database administrators, staff time that you need to provide to work with and tune up the InterBase engine, which means overall it has an exceptionally low total cost of ownership. Encryption is also built in, and we provide AES and ES strength encryption, but the AES strength 256-bit encryption is the base point that you really want to be looking at. Now that tied in with the user level security, the role-based authentication that we can provide, gives you very flexible, powerful data security that operates all the way through the product life cycle, ensuring that you can make sure only the right people see the right data at the right time. And it means you don't have to give your data access to your developers. You can provide them with an encrypted version that provides default values when they're working with sensitive data. For example, if you don't want them to see the HR department data, then don't allow them access to it. Allow them access to see whatever base value you want them to see for their development, and then let the appropriate user verify that they can see the data in the application at runtime. And this also helps in terms of breach capabilities and ensuring that the data isn't inadvertently exposed by a developer who's not quite sure what they should be doing with restricted data. Because of this, all the way through the product lifecycle, because the database file is encrypted, it means your data is safe wherever it goes, which is exceptionally important to providing turnkey solution security across the enterprise. Now, InterBase comes in a number of editions. The installed editions are the server and the desktop editions, and then the library editions are the to-go and the IB Lite edition. We offer trial editions across the products as well. We offer an installed trial, which is a full 90-day trial, and then we also offer an embedded version, which is the to-go edition trial, and this provides full encryption and testing capabilities as well. If you're a developer, then we provide a developer edition, which provides 20 users and 80 concurrent connections, and we also have an SDK pack that's been launched this year, which you can acquire through our channels, and that provides full testing licenses which you can use to fully test your deployable embeddable servers as well, which gives you kind of full end-to-end testing and can be used for your sales team as well to be able to demo the product that you're looking to sell. So the SDK product is really, really worth having a look at, and it's $99 for the year. You know, it really is as simple as signing up and off you go. Now, the InterBase roadmap is available publicly on EDN at article 43963, and there we talk about some of the exciting stuff that we're looking to do, some of it which we're going to clarify in more detail through today's session. But we are looking at both now 32 and 64-bit support for Linux to join the 32 and 64-bit support that we have for Windows servers, and we are also looking at large transaction ID support. This basically means that databases can run for even longer between backup and restores. If you're running thousands of transactions a minute, then after around about a month, you'll be looking to back up and restore your database as part of your admin processes. With the 64-bit transaction IDs, that's going to be into hundreds of years that you need to worry about needing to back up and restore your database because you've run out of transaction IDs. So this really does make it run for a lot longer on much higher transaction load workspaces. For most users, then 32-bit transaction IDs will keep you going for an exceptionally long time. But where you do have very high transaction throughput, then along with the SMP support, 64-bit transaction IDs is great. Now, one of the key technologies that we're looking at introducing is a great way for developers to be able to manage tracking of changes to data. And this is part of what we're going to be talking about through change views, so I'll talk a bit more about that in a moment. But we also have much faster database dumps coming in. This allows us to have a hot backup database ready just to convert it from being read-only to read-write and ready to go. Also you can use that fast database backup for load balancing, for running reporting systems and so on. So multiple uses for it, but a much faster distinguished data dump now. We've already deployed out our Embeddable client this year, which allows you to connect into a remote InterBase server from a Windows, Mac, iOS or Android client. But it also, IB Lite provides client-side data storage as well. And with a free edition, that's exceptionally powerful for clients to have. We've also been working on updating our demos into an SVN, and this can be used with the new database technologies in RAD Studio to open samples directly from the SVN, but also provides us a much quicker and easier way to provide you with updates to samples in the long term as well. We also have moved our documentation up to DocWiki, so there's now a docwiki.embarcadero.com for InterBase, and that allows you to search through much quicker and easier. We also will be maintaining the PDFs for the different developer guides, but this provides two ways now to be able to get to the documentation and get to it a lot quicker. Now, two sessions that I would like to draw your attention to from earlier in the year. Certainly if you're storing any data at rest anywhere, on a server, on a client, if you're storing any data that has customer data, personal data of any shape, way or form, then it's a must to watch and understand the challenges and the legal responsibilities that we cover through the Rise to the Data Security Challenge website. You can get the URL just by scanning the QR code on screen or by visiting embt.co/I B-5-28, and that will allow you to register there and get that replay. Also, if you're looking to mobilize data and take data out onto mobile platforms, following on from that webinar, there's an excellent white paper which is mobilizing enterprise data. Also applies a lot to data at rest, but that's empt.co/M, lowercase ob, capital E, lowercase nt, capital W, capital P for MobEnt white paper. That will allow you to register and download that PDF and read through those really important things to avoid as you go through taking data to mobile. Now, I also want to briefly mention about EMS, because EMS has been launched this year, Enterprise Mobility Services, and Enterprise Mobility Services is about providing you full front to back end with client-side databases for InterBase to go, which provide full encryption on devices, and also full encryption enabled database server on the back end with InterBase. You don't need to use InterBase on the back end, but if you've got the license for it there, it kind of makes sense to use it where you can. And EMS provides a great way to build your own custom packages that you can deploy into the EMS server and then have all the rich business analytics that comes along with knowing who's using what, where and when through your middle tier server. And with the direct connections through FIDAC or IBX to your InterBase databases, this is an exceptionally cool, fast way to provide out data in a very mobile friendly way, and also track an awful lot of usage information around it that then can drive the business needs moving forward as well, about what you support, when you're supporting different features being up and down for maintenance and so on as well. EMS provides a developer edition which comes with RAD Studio or App Method, and there's also then custom pricing for different user levels available. If you want to contact your local rep, they'll be able to help you with your own specific requirements. And again, as always, there's ISV OEM pricing available under our VAR model for you to get involved with. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about Delta Force and what's coming up in Delta Force. So Project Delta Force is very much about enabling you to run for faster, for longer, and simplifying the whole concept of getting changes out to remote clients, be them servers or remote desktops or remote mobiles or remote briefcases of any type. Now, we are talking now about some pre-release software, so the usual disclaimer just to say that this is part of the beta and some things may be subject to change. What we see here is an exact promise to deliver exactly what we see. So the core features we are expecting to deliver through with Delta Force is 64-bit transaction IDs and change views. Change views is massive, and I will spend a bit of time. In fact, we're going to have a really good demo from our principal engineer, Shram, who's going to be taking us through change views shortly. But everything we've been doing on Delta Force is about improving the speed. We've got an SMP improvement that's coming through, index manager changes that are coming in, distinguished data dumps which speed up the creation of read-only copies of the database, and also then going further about speed, being able to provide 64-bit versions for Linux as well, and also exposing additional APIs that we have within the product for journaling and online dumps. Now, with introducing a 64-bit Linux server, we are going to have binary compatible versions for the database files between Windows and Linux that allows you to develop on one machine and just copy onto the target to deploy it out to, which eases the development cycle. We are looking to support Ubuntu 14, Red Hat Enterprise on Linux for 6 and 7, and SUSE 11. And obviously, as always, any of these versions can connect, any InterBase version can connect through to a Linux server. Okay, so let's talk about change views. Change views, I'm just going to give you a few minutes context on them, and then we'll get into a really cool demo looking at these in action. So what is a change view? Well, a change view is a subscription-based model that allows you to subscribe to data, and through those subscriptions you are then able to identify what has changed since you started your subscription to the data. Subscriptions can run either during a transaction or spanning connections and time. So once you start a database transaction, you can then be working with your subscription, you can disconnect from the database, you can reconnect up with a new transaction at a point in time in the future, you can then activate your subscription, and then you can then find out what has changed in the database in the meantime. Now, every subscriber to the database can have multiple devices that they subscribe to the database. Each device basically is an endpoint that you want to have a managed point in time for your subscriptions. Now, a traditional briefcasing model, if we take each of these colors as a point in time and some changes happening, you need to download maybe 23 different data packet changes as time goes through. With change views, we're able to identify at a field level specifically what has changed, and then allow you to pass only those changes down. Now, this is really important when you start thinking, if I've got a salesperson out in the field and they may be updating specifically their stock information before they go into a customer's visit, if you've just updated all the stock items with their on-hand data, and you may store a photo for that stock on the record, you don't want to be pushing the entire data down. So using change views, you can identify just specifically the elements that have changed, leave the other data behind, and that drastically reduces the time it takes to update, the speed it takes to update over cellular data as well, the performance of your applications, and most importantly as well, the cost of updating your local data. So you're able to keep in sync a lot quicker and a lot more cost effectively. And from a developer point, this is so easy to implement. So why are we getting really excited about change views here? And why would you want to use change views? Well, traditional ways of tracking changes are either with triggers or with dates. So let's start off with triggers. Triggers are very high cost at runtime. They verbose the database out by using a log table that every single subscriber who wants to track different changes to data has to have those logged. And then when you connect up, you can then find out what's changed and work your way through the change log. Now, that's great, but it's very hard to query what specifically has changed if you just want to do a quick lookup on, say, a specific table. And also, the more users you have connecting in, each with their own logging going on, the more verbose your database gets. So logging via triggers is really suited to small-scale deployments only. And with change views, we provide a near zero database speed effect. This is logged specifically on the record within the database, and we're able to identify specifically at when time they've been changed. This has very minimal on-disk size effect, so we don't have a large log file that's going through. We have field level granularity, so we're able to identify specifically what fields have been changed, where and when. We're able to query through SQL for what fields have changed, what is the change state of the field, and get that subset of data of what's changed back as well. And it's very highly scalable. Change views has the same cost on a database as a single, from 1 user to 1,000 users. With date fields are rather verbose. You have to add extra columns to your database just to be able to track changes. They can increase then obviously disk usage. They become exceptionally complex to manage, especially if you want to retrofit them into an application later. You need to plan them up front to make sure that your queries are all working up front. And also, if you have multiple fields in the database that are just there storing redundant data, that becomes a complexity that you need to manage as well. Date fields provide issues around simultaneous users updating data. You either have to block users sequentially from writing their entire block of changes, so when they go and ask for the changes that have happened since a specific point in time, that they get back the things they should be getting, which is not particularly good in high volume areas. Or you run risks around dates being wrong and missing data. Also, it's very hard to identify what you knew about, so you don't end up pulling your own data changes back to yourself as well. With change views, you're able to identify specifically what you have put into the database, so they're not sent back to you automatically. If you want to connect in and make them changes anonymously, then you will get those changes back if you need to. But why move that data back if you've made the changes? There's no meta changes that you need to make to the specific tables by adding fields or columns or triggers to track changes. Very, very easy to manage either before or after, and you can query them as you go through to find out what has changed at runtime. So hopefully that's kind of whetted your appetite for change views. I'm now going to hand over to our principal lead engineer, Shriram, who's going to take us through change views.
Thanks, Stephen. I'm going to take the time just to quickly demo the change view feature. And I thought what better than taking our sample database and trying to implement change view on top of it. My name is Sriram Balasubramanian, and I am the engineering team lead for InterBase. And today we are going to walk through setting up subscription in a simple use case scenario and seeing how we can fetch changed record information from the database. So here, just quickly put together a story. Say for a startup CEO who's using the an employee database, and the CEO might be interested in looking at or subscribing to changes in certain tables. So they want to make sure that they are looking at key information within the database that's changed without having to implement a lot of any database schema changes. They are just going to be identifying assets that they want to track and setting up subscriptions on them. So subsequently, when the CEO is actually going ahead and fetching the information, they just get notified about the changed data rather than being bombarded with the hundreds or thousands of millions of records that are existing in those tables. So some of the goals for the user, in this case the CEO, is to track changes on customer accounts. That's in employee.gdb, it's tracked as a customer table. Track changes related to any employee information. Employees are key asset in the company, and any kind of changes that happen for the employee records are important as well. The CEO, since it's a startup company, is also interested in making sure that sales are occurring consistently and orders are getting shipped to customers. And then, of course, they may also be interested in checking out any department relocation decisions that have happened since they last checked into the data. So that's just basically a set of stories that I sort of pulled in together. And now we are going to see how we are going to set that up in the employee database. In our demo, we are essentially going to go through and set up the subscriptions using the script. And then subsequently, we have a case where the CEO has 3 different devices that they're using with this common database. On one device, we're just naming the 3 devices as laptop, tablet, and phone. And the idea behind this demo is to show that irrespective of where they're using the application, if they connect back to the same common database on a remote server, they're going to be fetching information on that device that they have that they want to refresh from the last time that they used that device. So that's what they're interested in looking at, all the changes on that particular device since they last refreshed the information. So we have specific helper scripts out there that we have put together for this demo. There are two categories of scripts. One is to check for changes from a particular device or destination, as we call them. And another script is just to make changes from that device. So if the changes are being run from one device, you should be able to use the other device and say, okay, what were the changes since I last checked on this particular device? So we are going to be going through the steps to make sure that initially you go ahead and set up your subscription, fetch your data for the first time, in which case you will be getting all of the data. And then subsequently, any checks for changes will return you only information that has been changed since you last refreshed on that device. So let's go ahead and set up the database. Running the run setup information script. And what this script does is it just basically restores your sample employee backup file into a new database. It just restores the database and then sets up subscription on specific assets. If we look at the setup, what we have done here is we have identified, since the CEO is interested in subscribing to different changes in the database, we have identified all the assets that they are interested in subscribing to. So we are using the create subscription command and giving it a name. The subscription can be any name that you want to define. Of course, it shares the namespace with other entities in the database. But in this case, we have named it as subscription CEO multi-device. And it's setting up a subscription on employee for row insert, update, delete. So essentially here we are saying we want to be notified of any change to this table, whether it's an insert, update, or a delete clause. Likewise, for customer records, in the sales table, the CEO is interested in only checking for updates, especially for orders that that have just been shipped or have been shipped since the last time they checked for data. And then, of course, as you noticed, you can also mention table names with specific columns or set of columns that you're interested in rather than the whole table. In this particular use case, we are saying the CEO is interested in location changes on table department. And of course, the descriptions are always helpful to know what kind of subscriptions are available in the database. So if you're a developer or an administrator, you can set up all of the subscriptions and people can then start using those subscriptions. What we do see here is you do have to provide a grant subscribe clause to certain users. In this use case, we just have a single user in the database, which is this DBA. And you do have to grant subscribe to users that you may want to use the subscription. So if you have more than the sysdba, which is very typical, databases do contain a lot of database users. So you can subscribe selectively who gets to use the subscription in their applications. So now that we have set up this database with a subscription, we can go ahead and start using it. So one of the first things that you would do in your database is from your application, when you selectively connect to a subscription or use a subscription, you may want to use, you will have to use the set subscription clause as part of the change view feature. So what you're deciding to do in this particular script is set the subscription active on that particular device. And this is a subscription that you just created, that was created for you, and you have been granted access. So you come in from a different session and say, I want to use this subscription now. and the device that I am activating the subscription for is my tablet. You have a similar, you have to identify your application from which device you are coming in. Of course, this is optional. If you do not give a device or a destination, as we call them, then the subscription is sort of tracked for that user, and you won't be able to distinguish between from one device to the other. Anytime you execute a query, you will only get changes from the last time you refresh on any device. But if you want to track it per device, you can go ahead and give the add clause. Just as a comparison, in this particular SQL script, we do have the device identified as a tablet. We do have another SQL script where the device is identified as a phone. You could have a device which is identified as a laptop. So you can track subscriptions on each device uniquely. But if you did not want to do that, if you just wanted to track it for your user, you just don't provide the at destination clause. So as we have noticed in this SQL script, you do activate the subscription that you want to use. And from this point onwards, any query that you execute on the tables where we have set up subscription, you will get only changes that have been done to that particular set of records in that table. The first time you ever execute this set subscription command for the subscription that you have been granted, you will get all the records. And the reason for this is the database has to have some initialization of your subscription. Basically, it has to know that from a particular destination or for a particular user, this is where it starts or needs to start tracking changes. So the first time you do execute any of these queries in an active subscription, you're going to get all the records. But subsequently, when you keep running the same query within new activations of the same device or the destination, you will only see changes. So let's go ahead and run our scenario of this. So in my case, I just go ahead and have 3 different devices as 3 different windows. And I'm going to show you, I'm considering that this is my laptop, and this is my tablet, and this is my phone device, just for illustration. So on my laptop, I will go ahead and run check changes from laptop. So what does this script do? What the script does is it will go ahead and run a similar SQL like what you're seeing for the tablet here, but for the laptop. I can just go ahead and do that. So just like I mentioned previously, you're going to identify your laptop as a device where you would want to initialize your subscription, and then go ahead and select all the data. The first time you do this, you're going to get all of the records. Of course, there's just a bunch of records, so you end up getting all of the records, as we noticed, because we are not putting any conditional clause on or selective filtering of any of the data. You're just going ahead and selecting all of the records. Now you can think of a client server over a WAN or a LAN where there might be bandwidth restrictions, and you're still going ahead and getting all of these records the first time around. But subsequent runs of this query is going to get you only changes that have happened since, like in this particular case, we ran it for the laptop. If we run the same script another time, we don't get any records back, because now your subscription has been set, a flag post has been set the first time you ran it, and subsequently when you run the same script once again, you're not getting any records because there have been no changes that have been done to the tables that you're interested in or that you're subscribed to. So we will go ahead and run the same. When I say the same, we are going to check for changes on a tablet, and since we are running it for the first time on the tablet, we are going to get a similar set of all the records against that database. And we will do the same against the phone as well. And the first time the application runs with the subscriptions active on the phone, it set a flag post for the phone as well. So subsequent runs is going to show you only changes, just like what we saw on the laptop. Now the next step in this process, of course, would be for us to go ahead and implement some changes, actually. So as part of a demo, what we have just gone through right now is initializing our subscriptions on each of the device where we are interested in and checking for changes initially. So you have got all the records and there are no changes to report at this point. Over the course of time, someone might actually change some data which you are going to be notified about. So let's go ahead and run the first part of the demo where we implement a change on the laptop. And when we implement the change on the laptop, of course, the laptop application or the destination is the one that's run through the change. So it's not going to be notified itself that it's done some changes when it looks up for changed information. But if you run the same queries on tablet and on phone, you're going to be now notified what changes happened on the tables that you're subscribed to. So first we are going to run the changes on the laptop. So the changes on the laptop, what does it do? If we look at the change, this is what the laptop application or the destination application does. In this case, the laptop is going to connect to the database in question and is going to make some very rudimentary changes. It's going to move an employee. This particular application moves an employee from one department to another. So they're being moved to, the employee is being moved to department number 671 with the sample data. Then it goes ahead and we also update an employee's salary and give them a 5%, the employee gets a 5% raise. And then it goes ahead and commits the data. Now, of course, notice that in this case, the laptop is the one that actually makes the laptop application is the one that makes the changes. So subsequently, when the laptop application or destination device selects from these tables, it's not going to be notified that there are any changes that it needs to consume because it was the one that made the changes. But if you do run the select query from the tablet or the phone, you're now going to be notified of changes in the employee table, right? Because the employee was moved from one department to another and some other employee got a salary change. You're going to see those changes here. So let's go ahead and run the change script on the laptop. And we'll see based on the output, we will see what this particular SQL does, as we just noticed. We are basically updating the employees department to 671 right there. And we are going ahead and also updating the employee's salary with a 5% raise. Of course, if we now say the CEO is now using his tablet to check for changes that have happened in the database since they last checked for changes. The tablet is just going to quickly notify you based on, because that's a destination device where you're subscribing and you're setting a subscription to active. And now you get only, even though you execute select on all of the records with an employee, your subscription window is now active. So you're going to only see the changes that have happened in the tables that you're subscribed to. So even though you do a select all records from employee, you're just going to be notified of the 2 records that are actually changed. Now, if you do change your destination, say you do bring up your phone and run the same application, the phone is also going to be notified because it's now moving its subscription flag post from what it did refresh earlier on, and now it's going to be notified of the changes. Now, there's a special clause that I want to mention out here. Since you are activating a subscription and looking for only changes in the tables that you're subscribed to, once you do commit your transaction, your subscription snapshot has now moved forward. So any subsequent runs of the same query is not going to notify you anymore about the changes. Those changes have already been consumed by the application. Now, the relevancy out here, of course, is your application can only work on the changed data and you can do something with it. But the more important thing out here also is that you can set up your subscription such that bandwidth consumption is to a minimum. and you don't have to select all of the records or implement any schema changes to track changes within the table. All you do is set up your subscriptions, and InterBase will notify you of all change data. So now, of course, as we mentioned earlier on, since the laptop is the one that actually made this changes to the records, if you run check for changes on the laptop, you're not going to be notified of any changes because you're the one who actually made the changes. Now we can just move forward to another device and run other changes that say you want to do on your tablet. Now, what does the tablet do? It selectively modifies some additional information in the database, right? It goes ahead and changes the department location for department number 180. And it moves it, the change was that the department moved to Austin, Texas. Now, of course, you made this change on the tablet, but the laptop and the phone application have not yet refreshed those changes. So if you run your check changes on the phone, now the phone is going to only get the specific changes that were supposed to be submitted to the phone because it was just refreshing your subscriptions. Likewise, if the CEO runs the same application on the laptop, they're now going to see that something else changed in. So irrespective of whatever application or destination device they use, they're always going to see the changes since the last time they refreshed the data on that particular destination device. Just for illustration, we'll go ahead and run some changes on the phone as well. And the phone makes modifications to other assets that you're tracking. In this case, you may remember from our story earlier on that we wanted to also track order status. If a particular order did get shipped, then that should be coming up in the list of changes that the CEO is interested in. So as you can notice in this particular test script, we are making changes to an underlying table, sales table, and this particular order has been shipped on this date. Now, of course, between the time, you could have a number of orders that have been shipped since the last time the application was used on a different device. And when you do look up for changes, it's going to show you a list of all the orders that have been shipped since the time you last refreshed. Now, of course, on the phone, you have made a change and you have shipped an order from here. And if you look for changes on the tablet, you're going to now be notified that the order did indeed ship. Now, you will notice in this case, there's in iSQL, along with having a set changes clause, which indicates to iSQL that it needs to print some additional information about what the change was. You'll notice that the change was essentially updating the status of that particular PO order to shipped, and at the same time, it also notifies you that the change was actually an update in the ship date column. So it does put in a new date when the order was shipped, and it also notifies you what was the change that actually changed on that record. So you can see over time in InterBase's versioning or multi-generation architecture is in the background, we are keeping track of all the states that implemented a change in that record version. And you only get notified if you subscribe to that particular state change. So you may remember when you set up the subscriptions, you mentioned that you're not only interested in updates on sales table, right? So if someone went ahead and ordered, inserted a bunch of data to the sales table, that's not going to show up in your change list because you're not interested in the new orders in the sales table. You're just interested in updates in the sales table. So you can selectively mention what states you're interested in your subscription, whether it's new records, updates to existing records, or deleted records. In some cases, you may want to track deletes where you have lost some data inadvertently, or you have lost some customer information or anything of the sort on the table, and you can selectively put in a subscription for deleted records. So the next time you refresh for deleted records, you will be notified that those records are indeed deleted, and only those. So here we did make a change to the ship order status, and going back to the laptop window, if you do run check changes on the laptop, you're going to be notified of what change happened. And you will notice that the other two queries, or when you're querying for information from employee and customers, you don't get any results set back because there were no changes in those tables since you last refreshed on the laptop. But there have been changes to the sales records and what the change was. All right. So we did walk through a very simple use case of what change view and subscription setup can help you achieve, and how easy it is to go ahead and set up a subscription on top of an existing database. And you can selectively, very selectively, you can either subscribe to changes on the whole, on all of the records for any kind of change, or you can selectively go ahead and apply for a subscription for specific columns that have either changed as an insert or as an update or as a delete. You can choose your states and you can choose your columns if you so choose to do that, or you can just select, go ahead and say, I'm interested in all kinds of changes on this table. And as long as you're granted to use that subscription, it will just help you reduce any kind of bandwidth consumption, and also specifically provide you data that you're interested in, rather than having to define filters or make any schema changes in your database. So that is just a short and a single use case where multiple devices are used by one particular user. And now I'll turn it back to Stephen. Thank you.
Thanks, Shriram. That was an excellent demo of change views, and something I'm really looking forward to being able to get out and travel talking to you guys about more and more. If you can't wait, please do let us know. Come join the beta and contact me on stephen.ball@embarcadero.com. Please do provide me your EDN account, username and email, and also which company you're working for. If you're using InterBase already, that'd be great to know. And also what specifically is driving you to want to try and use the beta. That would be great to hear all those things. So I know we've taken quite a bit of time now to get through this product address, but time for some questions and to kind of listen to your feedback really on what we're doing.
Rob is asking, is subscription checked to the central site or node-to-node hub and spoke or full mesh?
Okay, I think what he's asking is, the demo that we went through was showing that there's a mobile device, a tablet device, and a desktop. We literally just chose 3 different devices to illustrate that when you're connecting to the central database, each one has its own subscription ID. Now you could pass in a GUID, for example, or you could be using it by username and device. So each user on the database could have their own laptop, tablet, and so on. But all that device name is a unique way to reference that remote device. And that subscription allows you to then ask for the changes that device needs to know about since it was last connected, and then to get those, and then for you to do whatever you want to do with them. So obviously what we'd recommend is that you're persisting those into a local copy of InterBase, and then you can then set up subscriptions on the local copy as well that then allows you to pick up the changes that you make locally and then push those out to the remote machines. So using 2 subscriptions connected in on the local machine, or in fact you'd only need 1, because you could connect up without a subscription to make changes through your application, and then you can connect with the subscription active to find the changes that you've made locally to then be able to push those back to the server. And then when you update the local device, you just activate your subscription, make the changes, disconnect, and then when you ask next time, it knows that you already know about those changes because you made it. You can then pick up the changes that have been made outside the subscription on the device. So it really does give you full tracking at both ends and allows you to then pick up the changes and decide what you want to do with them. The other thing that's kind of cool is you can actually say, right, give me all the changes, find out how much has changed, and then decide, actually, do you know what, I'm going to leave it there for the moment and not collect it and do anything with it. You can just disconnect. It's only when you actually say, I want to commit my subscription up to the current point, that it actually brings everything up to point in time. So I hope that answered your question, Rob.
And then Rob asks, are changes delivered to the app or to the database engine? And then to the app?
So what happens is the change views as a technology tracks on the data layer. As a developer, it's then up to you with your business rules about what you want to do with moving those changes around to different devices. We're providing you the core engine to be able to identify those changes so you can deal with them. And this is really important for mobilization of workforces where you want to have that data updated on local devices. And especially, we know we have customers who've got tens of thousands of items in their stock lists. And their sales reps are going out helping the customer work out what they need to order on these big engineering projects, and to be able to literally pick up the items that have changed or the specific data around the items they have that has changed obviously saves a huge amount of time and bandwidth. And that's what Change Views is about helping you do, is about identify what has changed. Because InterBase has a two-phase commit as well, until you tell the server side that you're committed with that transaction, then it's not actually disregarded. So the way to do this would be create a local connection to your dataset, connect the remote one, get the changes. Once you've updated the changes locally and you've told that to prepare, and you then told the server to prepare, you then tell them to commit, and then at that point the changes are then updated, if that makes sense. So this is one of the great things about having an ACID compliant database, is having the kind of the two-phase commit thing.
Are the changes acknowledged? What about an app crash before the changes are persisted? Rob is asking. And then can a centrally located program collate the changes for remote devices? Is there a way to hook in somewhere, like caching system or something?
Yeah. So the crashes one was the two-phase commit answer, which I just gave. We don't have anything in there that actually allows you to connect to a remote device from a central server, or the other way around. We're literally providing the core engine. It's up to you then how you connect in to get those changes. So the InterBase engine at the moment is what's driving and tracking all the changes, which is the really hard part. Getting the changes down there really is then up to you. There's so many different use cases and business logic scenarios that people have come across. For the first part of getting this out, this is about making sure that the engine can do what it needs to do to support you getting those changes reliably. And this is no small hurdle. When you look at say the timestamp fields or the trigger logging, these approaches have some serious issues, especially around date time changes and around scalability. What we're providing with Change Views is something that has near to zero footprint on the database, which is quite astonishing, to be honest. And it's patent pending, this technology. So using the multi-generational architecture that we have in InterBase provides us a way to be able to track these changes through. And even if other people are making changes at the point that you're running a transaction, they're still going to be visible to you the next time you connect in, or at the point that you commit and update your transactions. So it really resolves any of that kind of those kind of issues, allowing you to actually be a lot more reliant on that kind of tracking of changes in the central point. Yeah, we're really excited to get this stuff out, and I know we had we've had literally hundreds of people attending both of these product addresses on the Object Pascal and on the C++ track. We have got another session later where we talk about IB Lite and using that to connect to a server from a remote device. So that kind of covers maybe some of the other questions that were asked through that we've run out of time for here. But the great thing is, because InterBase is multi-threaded, it's there for hundreds of people to be connected at the same time. The remote devices are just like any other client in that respect. So they can just all connect in and do what they need to do, which is pretty cool.
Stephen, thank you very much.
Cheers, David. See you later.